Welcome to the WLPGA's LPG Talks interview series. Each interview will feature LPG industry leaders and explore current opportunities, trends and developments in the LPG industry. We hope you will enjoy these informative discussions.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. My name is Michael Kelly, and you are watching LPG Talks. Today, I'm joined by Shannon Watt, who is the CEO of the Canadian Propane Gas Association. Shannon has been in this position for just over a year. Shannon, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Shannon, I want to kick off with an interesting question to get this going. You apparently have a master's in air quality meteorology. So how on earth did you end up in the propane sector?
That's a great question. So I started my career as a meteorologist, and as a good meteorologist, I did this, incredible modeling, these great reports. And what I realized is that people would take my reports and shelve them. And I thought, I really would like to get a job that actually does make a difference or does influence policy. And so got invited over to work for industry as in an association, and realized how much I enjoy it and how much you actually get to influence what's going on out there. And here I am almost 20 years later.
Yeah, and then still working on air quality, because there's air quality issues which are happening in Canada right now, correct?
Yeah. And what's amazing is having a degree in meteorology is how often it comes up. And so, as noted, I think most people know, we've been having a lot of forest fires in Canada. Now, this is part of the ecosystem, is part of the renewal process. But, due to suppression policies, due to changing weather patterns, we are having a really tough forest fire season. And so Ottawa, where I live, we've had a lot of what they call high air quality days where we're literally stuck inside because the air quality is so poor. So yeah, it's very much topical these days.
Yeah, and air quality is one of the issues that we at the WPGA talk a lot about, whether it's household air pollution or ambient air pollution. Maybe you can give us a little background on why air quality is important.
People know just instinctively that air quality has an impact on your lungs, on your breathing, on asthma, and anybody who has trouble with their breathing. But studies show, that it has issues with your cardiovascular, so with your heart, right? Your heart's going to pump harder. But now you're starting to see, especially in the last decade, studies that show that it impacts brain development. So long-term impacts of air pollution impacts brain development, and also your mood, your mental health. And what's interesting in Ottawa is you're starting to see that kind of notice coming from the local government saying, hey, you might feel a bit of anxiety. This is normal when you're being impacted by this much air pollution. So it really does impact your physical and mental health in a way that people might not previously have known.
Yeah, that's true. And I think I want to switch gears a little bit, continue on this discussion with air quality, because there's been a lot of talk in the press lately about the impacts of cooking with gas, mostly with natural gas, but it's also affecting us in the LPG industry. Is that something that you in the association in Canada are dealing with? The perception that gas stoves have a negative impact on health?
That's coming out of the States. But what's interesting is the science behind it. And the science is starting to show it's not really what you cook with, but the fact that you're cooking. So when you're cooking, regardless of the energy source, you're actually releasing chemicals, and it's how you're cooking. Are you burning your food? How hot is that? Are you using the right oil when you're heating it up? So what are the ingredients you're using? And really, it all comes down to ventilation. So the science is starting to show that it really is about your cooking methodology as opposed to whether you use natural gas, propane, or just electricity.
Do you think that message is resonating with the stakeholders that you have in government, and maybe with the NGOs in Canada?
Yes, to some extent, yes. I mean, I like to think that people trust the science. That's not always the case, but at the end of the day, this is what the science is showing, and we really should be addressing other sources of indoor air pollution, whatever that might be, instead of fixating on one thing only.
Yeah, good answer. Let's talk a little bit about decarbonization. And we've noticed around the world, particularly in the developed world, there are some very aggressive regulatory targets that are impacting many of our members, and they're investing a lot, and the industry is investing a lot in renewable LPG, various different forms of what we call renewable liquid gases. Is that something that the Canadian industry is putting resources into?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have, we've kicked off a decarbonization study with the hope of having something come September. So looking at our other members around the world who have done this, we want to do a Canadian version of this because we believe propane is a low emission, but we also recognize that we need to continue to lower that emission. And in Canada, we've been saying it's a dial, not a switch. So we can't go to zero immediately. We really need to do that transition. And propane is that perfect transition fuel for whatever you might be thinking in terms of renewable energy or lower emission energy.
Okay, so that's a message that you think is resonating with your stakeholders and your members?
Not only that, I think it's resonating with government. And so we've had a government who's really pushed electrify everything. And of course, we have an infrastructure grid that's just not quite ready. And so there's been this pause of, how can we do this in a practical way without, in an affordable way, in fact, to ensure that, we're not losing everybody when we transition to a greener energy source. And so they're starting to hear that there really is middle ground and that there's a need for all energies at the table.
And that's a great message and one that WLPGA tries to amplify as well. One last question before I ask you about the upcoming LPG week in Rome. If you had a single issue that WLPGA could support you on, a single way that we could work together, what would that issue be?
I think it's really simple. It's education, right? The importance of propane. I'm amazed at how many people don't think about propane and don't understand its versatility, don't understand its affordability, don't understand how it can be used in countries across the world for heating, for cooking, for whatever it might be. And so having WLPGA really pushing that importance of propane is so helpful for us to get that word out.
That's a great message and a message that we'll take to heart. And I'd like to end by talking a little bit about upcoming LPG Week featuring the 35th World LPG Forum and the European Liquid Gas Conference. That will be held in Rome from the 13th to the 17th of November. We fully expect it to be one of the biggest global LPG events ever held. Shannon, I know you plan on joining us in Rome. What are you most looking forward to?
I'm really looking forward to meeting my international colleagues and really getting a handle on what the global issues are. So something that's really a highlight of my calendar this November.
Excellent. You heard it here. If you want to meet Shannon, you have to come join us in Rome for LPG Week featuring the 35th World LPG Forum and the European Liquid Gas Forum. Shannon Watt, the CEO of the Canadian Propane Association. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Michael Kelly. This is LPG Talks. Thank you for being with us and see you next time.